redshirt freshman from nearby Johnston, Iowa. Will Feldkamp was the big find this offseason, the transfer from Clarion, but he has not been fully healthy, so they're going to hold Feldkamp back tonight. We'll see if he's able to go with Wisconsin next week. But you take a look at 184, and there is the Clarion All-American from a year ago. Feldkamp, part of the pile there.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to see how he transitions into this Iowa State program and the team. I think when you have an All-American coming from different situations, you don't know how they'll respond. You know, like I've seen it before, even when I was in college, you get a guy that makes transfers as a grad transfer, and they don't see the same level of success. But I think the thing for Will Feldkamp is that he's like, oh, I'm coming here. I know who I am. I'm a grad transfer. I know what I want to do, and I'm really locked in on that.
Helgeson out there tonight for Iowa State, the redshirt freshman. One of 4 Cyclones who made their career debut in a duel last week in the win against Cleveland State. Half of Iowa State's lineup was either a freshman or a redshirt freshman. That's how young this team is. Redshirted a season ago, went 10-4, did Helgeson. 4-time state medalist for the Johnston Dragons.
Yeah, and he has some little brothers. One of his brothers just signed to Iowa State, Owen. And he has another one that's in high school at Johnston.
I know coming out of high school, he had some opportunities to play football as well. He was an all-state football player. See him strike on the low leg. Keeps his balance, repositions, and adjusts, and gets the 3 points.
Yeah, that was a beautiful inside reach, and we got to see him last week versus Cleveland State, and he kept going back to that opportunity, and I know that was one of the things he really wanted to add some more to, just in terms of his flow wrestling, is going to an attack and then, you know, switching it up and going to a different side. So I think that's something that he'll be working on, but my thing is if they haven't shown they can stop it, why change it?
Helgeson started as a 113-pounder his freshman year, ended up at 170 for Johnston. 3-1 lead as we approach the 1-minute mark here in this first period. A couple of reaches, counter shot by Ferguson. Ferguson had a strong debut, the true freshman from Cincinnati. He placed 3rd last week at the Southeast Open. They break up that tournament, freshmen, sophomores, and then juniors and seniors. He took 3rd in the freshman sophomore rankings. And that was the situation listening to Coach Carr earlier in the week. They weren't sure if he was even going to go. He's been bothered by a lingering injury, but he battled through, and here he is again tonight competing.
And you love to see guys that want to compete, you know, even when they're banged up, like, and you have to maybe like pull them back, harness, hey, I get that you want to compete, but it's a long 6 months. You know, it's a long time from, you know, September through March, and I want you to be ready to go in March.
Just as the stall call was lifted up into the air, just as the buzzer sounded to close out the period, Helgeson gets unanswered points.
You can't be unanswered points, you know? You don't even have it's like a comeback that you don't have an opportunity to respond with. It's kind of like hanging up the phone on somebody.
I get that a lot. You don't.
Well, now that I'm in fundraising, it happens more than you think.
That's true. Start of the second period. Ferguson underneath. Helgeson goes with the claw, left side of the body. Has that wrist underneath.
Ferguson's going to have to get that left hip through and get that pressure back into Helgeson. Helgeson's doing a great job right now of keeping that weight on him. And he got to his base, but he has that wrist still tied up.
Ferguson away. Boy, we've seen Iowa State right after that escape. They come right back in, and they've caught some of these Davidson wrestlers a bit flat-footed.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is that's being coached and taught is like, hey, when you go out for one or you get your escape, I want you right back in someone's face. I want you looking for an opportunity, finding an angle, or even just getting hand placement, because that's really the best time. The best time to score is right after you score.
Trying to go upper body here. He had it. It's slipping, and Helgeson clears the head. You don't mind that if you're Davidson. He went for the big move.
Yep, he went there. He got to that body lock. Probably would have wanted to see him lean more into it. Then he went to the headlock, and it didn't look like the headlock was really, really there. But he's going for it, and you can't be mad at someone that's going to go for it.
Driving into the ankle, holding. As the two wrestlers work their way out of bounds. I think we're going to get a technical violation on that last exchange. Locked hands, I believe, is what I saw. Is that right, Kaivan?
Yeah.
I missed the real-time sequence of it. Yep. So Ferguson gets the point, 12-4. Wyatt Ferguson wrestled 3 years at Oak Hills High School in Ohio. He was the Ohio Division I state runner-up at 190 pounds. He was a pinner, 61 career wins, 40 by way of the fall, and an excellent chain wrestler, but he's on the wrong end of it here. Couple of roll-throughs, and the second time he caught him for a brief moment. Nice bridge there underneath by Ferguson to safely get back to his base and avoid any near-fall count before the end of the period.
Yeah, that was a great job by Ferguson. Not conceding. In that situation, you're down by 8. It could be really easy to concede those points, and he didn't do that. And so if I'm a coach watching this back, I'm like, hey, I like that you didn't give up in that situation. We can build on that. We can build on heart and toughness.
Unable to get a mat return. Helgeson into bonus point territory, leading by 9. Has a 1:54 riding time as well. And all bonus points through the first 7 weights for Iowa State. 1 fall as well for the Cyclones tonight. The two wrestlers crack heads near the edge. Back to the center we go. Continuation of action.
Yeah, those were like 2 rams right there.
You could hear the thud. We're just a few steps away from that last collision. Unfazed. You know, you brought up a good point earlier, Kaivan. You talked about the pacing of a season. This is a long season, and it seems like for the modern day wrestler, between the international training, the freestyle, the Greco, for those that pursue that interest, you have all the regional training centers. It's a 12-month-a-year job, no doubt about it. But when you get into the college season, what was your key as far as pacing, especially here in the months of November and December?
Well, I guess you could say I was probably on a match count just with my injury history. I dealt with a lot of injuries early on, but it was really about spending a ton of time in the training room with the training staff, and I was fortunate enough to have a great trainer in Tim Wiesner. He's still over there in the Iowa State corner, but it was so important that I would argue I spent more time in the training room doing prehab and rehab to make sure my body felt good and that my mind was in a good place than I did in the wrestling room.
Make sure that body was fresh come late February and March. Good showing here by Helgeson as he nearly had an opportunity to put Ferguson over to his back. And that is going to be it. So a wait for Iowa State. Cyclones anticipating Will Feldkamp, the transfer and the All-American from Clarion. But in his absence, Caleb Helgeson has stepped in and delivers a bonus point win. A lot of fans making the short drive from Johnston to cheer on the former Dragon, who extends Iowa